Hi all, let's look at a very important encounter game between Wesley So and Ding Liren in the 2017 World Cup. So this is round 6.4, this is like the fourth game. Wesley So playing white, kicked off with knight f3. So non-committal, the reti opening. d5, and now g3, and in fact black goes for a fianchetto as well. So both sides kind of symmetrical at the moment. c4, c6, it's fairly standard stuff up till here. Now the main move, which is very popular in chess-based livebook, is a bit dull actually. C takes d5. A lot of games have actually apparently gone like this, believe it or not, where we reach a symmetrical position, which is not the most interesting position ever in the history of the game. But Wesley So decides knight bd2, this is a rarer path, a5, now we have b3, a4, so quite energetic play from black with his a pawn, bishop b2, bishop f5, e3, knight bd7, queen e2, knight e4, white took on e4, bishop takes e4, c takes, and now that b5 square seems available and is actually made use of. So what's the problem here? Well, black plays quite an energetic move in this position. Instead of protecting, b7 does something else. Can you guess what black played here? If I give you 5 seconds, starting from now. Okay. Rook a5, hitting the queen on b5. The queen takes on b7, and there's a very interesting tactical point here, exploiting one of the loose pieces in white's position. Can you spot it? If I give you 5 seconds here. So there's a very interesting tactical phase of the game. Okay. Knight c5, yeah, the loose piece on b2. The funny thing is, probably it's a good option just to take on c5. This wasn't played. Queen b4 was played. It might actually be good to go along with this. For example, here b4, and it's a tricky position for black. White seems slightly better here. Even if he loses the exchange, there's a lot of compensation that's connected past pawns here. So that's a very interesting try. But Wesley So played queen b4, and we have knight d3, and this is going into a really tactical concept here after queen d2. Black's idea is not simply to take on b2, but to make use of the pressure on b2 indirectly, that pinned pawn now. Perhaps though black, in theory, and I'm talking about in theory, should have taken on b3 first before doing this, to remove one of white's options with the a pawn, because here in the game continuation, in theory it seems white has a good idea in relation to this knight. It seems like a very strong move tactically, this next move. I wonder if you can guess what white played here. Okay, bishop c3, it leaves this knight stranded as a battery against b4. The knight can't use b4 or any other square, it seems. The knight's stranded, so basically knight g5 to knock out the bishop, and then the knight's going to be picked up. So we have a very, very intense tactical phase of the game here. A takes is played, and white goes ahead trying to win this knight basically. The knight's stranded, but there might have been a small improvement with a4. For example, this position. It's very, very tricky stuff, but fundamentally you might think, surely this is going to be good. But even here it's tricky because of rook takes c3. Some razor sharp lines. This is a razor sharp line, and white might be okay with bishop takes f5, this position. White has a small edge. If he played this, by the way, bishop takes d4, and then bishop takes d3 is winning because queen takes, there's bishop takes f2 check. So there's razor sharp stuff going on behind the scenes. But it seems that a4 might be a more critical try than the game, knight g5. So we have b2, rook ab1, and now another very tactical idea. Well, the knight's stranded. Still, black played knight takes f2, just giving up the knight to get, basically giving up 2 minor pieces for a rook. Yeah, very tactical stuff. Queen takes f2, bishop takes b1, 2 minor pieces for a rook, but now immediately hitting the g5 knight with e5. The knight stumbles back to h3 here. E takes d4, e takes, now queen c7 hitting the bishop, queen d2, and here actually white is on the defensive. He might technically be material up, but he's on the defensive. And actually he immediately goes for a kind of radical solution after queen c4. The pressure's mounting here, he can't do anything out of this horrible pawn, and he gives back some material. Technically he gives back to get a rook, yeah, bishop and knight, and to get this horrible pawn off the board. And you might think, well, white's a pawn up here, but actually we've seen an analogous game recently where John Ems outplayed a grandmaster opponent in the British Championship, and he was like initially a pawn down, but because there's this vacuum around the king, it's very, very tricky for white to actually hold on here. In fact, with this sort of vacuum, after rook c8, there's an immediate threat of rook takes c3 and bishop takes d4 check, just to put that on the board. You can see the vacuum of weaknesses puts white clearly on the defensive. His extra pawn here is nothing to celebrate too much. h5 is actually very strong now, with ideas of h4, h3. King h7, we have h3. Queen e4. And there's now a clear threat of rook c2, for example. And white tries to parry this with queen d3, but this is actually technically a mistake. It's technically a mistake. White's best is not very happy either. If white's best is rook e3, then this position is still miserable. There's this vacuum which leaves white very defensive, and black's going to even get material back with an advantage. That's like the best move. Now here, actually, after queen d3, black misses quite a crushing shot. He does play a very strong move in queen e1, but there's actually a crushing tactical blow here available. I wonder if you can guess it if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, try and analyze this position. It's an amazing tactic that black has here, but it celebrates this vacuum of weaknesses around the king. So if I give you 5 seconds. Okay, it seems there's a crushing blow here in the form of bishop takes d4 check. If bishop takes d4, check, check, and this is just winning, for example, like this. Yeah, there's all sorts of mating constructions. And if queen takes d4, check, 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 and mating like that. This bishop takes d4 is a bit of a pain. There's not too many things available for white, really. Yeah, it's not great. If we just look at, there's a sideline I think here actually as well. Yeah, well, not much of a sideline. If let's see, no, I think here after 34 rook c1 check. Yeah, this is just crushing. Yeah, if king h2, there's rook h1 checkmate, or queen h1. Yeah, so this was a massive tactical blow that was available, but we have the game continuing with check, queen d2, and there's huge pressure anyway here. Lots of threats like bishop d4 and rook c2. We have queen f2, check, and now taking this d4 pawn with check, check, and this vacuum is really telling now, this vacuum of weaknesses. Check. White goes into this self pin because rook c2 is going to be crushing on king h2. It's just miserable. Things like that. So horrible self pin, and there's no way of really relieving this pin now. White's in a kind of zugzwang in a way. Yeah, White's just in a sort of zugzwang. Check, and now yeah, he loses his queen. See, he tried to let's have a look at this again. A6, the check here. I mean, it's pretty fatal actually. If King H3, Queen E6. Yeah, it's just King H1, Rook C1, just pinning the queen. So it's like similar to the game. So White loses the queen basically, and there's a bit of a struggle here, but technically the queen is winning against the rook. White plays on a bit though, but it's a kind of known technique pattern, I believe, for all the strong grandmasters, where you're going to overload. I mean, the rook's going to fall off here. Check, and here White resigned. Yeah, there's nothing much to do here. If King here, Queen B1 check picks up the rook. Yes, so quite a large, complicated game with great tactical complexity from the point of the knight seemingly trapped, then black getting giving up 2 minor pieces for a rook, but that fawn pawn on B2, kind of very dangerous. White gave up 2 minor pieces again to clear that, but left himself with a fatal vacuum really. Even a pawn up, it's such a bad vacuum of weaknesses that it leaves White permanently on the defensive and ultimately crumbling at some point, which he did. So this game actually took Ding Liren, historically, I believe, like the furthest this is a Chinese player has gone for the World Cup. So congratulations to Ding Liren. Yeah, fantastic game there. Comments, questions, likes, shares, appreciated. Thanks very much.